All right, and welcome, my friends, to the next edition of the Red Delta Project podcast and live feed Q&A here on the RDP YouTube channel, where we are simplifying fitness by taking a fundamental approach to diet and exercise to give you more power, control, and freedom over your healthy lifestyles. Always, I'm Matt Schifferly, and today's episode is sponsored by one of my favorite companies, pullupdip.com. They're running a special Easter sale throughout the weekend here. If you use the promo code Happy Easter, all in caps, you will receive a 10% discount at checkout. Check out their trings, their portable pull-up bars. I got the bands back here as well. I've got plenty of reviews also on the Red Delta Project YouTube channel if you're looking for more information on those products, and check out what they have to offer. Quite innovative bodyweight training equipment as well. So today's episode is part 3 here in my Everything You Think You Know About Fitness is Wrong style of episode. This is kind of a preview of one of the upcoming books that I'm going to be working on later this year, which is essentially the manifesto of the Red Delta Project on how fitness actually really works. In episode 1 that I covered 2 weeks ago, I covered why no, your results are not down to do you have the right diet and do you have the right program or use the right equipment. That stuff is important, but it's not what's truly responsible for the results you're seeking. It's not about the method you use, but instead what is responsible for your results is what I covered in part 2, which is influencing the fundamental processes of mother and human nature. That's what's really going on. And we use those methods to influence those processes. So this is how a lot of people can all seemingly do the same thing and get wildly drastically different results. And why some people can be successful and yet they don't, quote, do anything right. There are plenty of people who eat junk food, but they're not fat, or do they gain weight? There are a lot of people who work out religiously in the gym and they're lifting weights and they're lifting heavy and everything, and they're not building hardly any muscle at all. These are not outlying circumstances. This is actually what usually happens. The stuff you see on social media and Instagram and all that sort of thing, the success stories you hear are actually in the minority. They're not in the majority of what's actually going on. So in today's episode, this is part 2, or the second half of what can you really do to give yourself the best leverage in ensuring that your workouts are going to be effective. Because I know a lot of times we're looking into what's the secret formula in the workout, like how many sets and reps, what kind of exercise do I do? Should I do 100 push-ups, or is it 5 by 5, or all these sorts of things? And again, it's not that that stuff isn't important, but it's not ultimately what's responsible for your results. And today I'm going to be talking about what truly is. And welcome everybody here on the platform, asking your questions and stuff like that. Remember, if you put "Hey Matt" in the feed, then I know it's right to me. Apologize though when it comes down to me answering things. My computer is in the shop, so I don't have the nice big screen in front of me that I can see everybody's questions and stuff. I can literally see like 2 questions at a time. So it's going to be a little bit helter-skelter for me getting to people's questions, so I appreciate your patience. So in the last episode, I talked about how what really is responsible for your result is the fundamental process of Mother Nature. I'm never going to tell somebody, if you eat this way, you're going to get ripped. If you train this way, you're going to get jacked. That's just basically guesswork, because your results that you're looking for are down to countless influences. It's diet, it's sleep, it's genetics, it's environment, it's reps, it's sets, it's speed, it's range of motion. It's whether or not you're facing north versus west when you're training. No, I'm not exaggerating that. When I was a taiko drummer back in the day, we used to actually have to orient our practice in a certain direction, because the time we practiced had us facing directly west. The sun would shine in and we couldn't see the person in front of us to know what we needed to be doing when we were drumming. So we literally had to turn 90 degrees to keep from getting blinded by the sun barreling into our eyeballs so we could see what was going on. There's a million things that are part of the process and an influence to what's going on. It would be foolish of me to point to one thing and say, if you do X, you're going to get result Y, because that almost never happens. The result that we're searching for is always down to many, many, many different influences. And of course, we don't even know what many of them are. This is why a lot of times, unfortunately so, A lot of success in fitness comes down to luck. It comes down to the blind fact that some people are just going to have it better and easier time getting whatever that result is than other people. But that does not mean that hard work, discipline, and doing what you can is trivial. It does not discount it in the least. The more you control the influences you do have awareness of, and you can have some measure of control over, the less you're putting your success to blind chance. And the way we can do that in our training is to recognize that the process of fitness that is working, because remember, the processes we need to have happen are always working. When you exercise, when you diet, when you have something different that you do, you actually don't make anything happen at all. When you get down on the floor and you do 30 push-ups, you're not telling your muscles anything whatsoever, because your muscles are always being told to build up and get stronger. Always, 100% for every single person. But the thing is, the other side of that process is they're also being told to break down, to decrease, to weaken, and so on. So you always have this yin and yang kind of process going on. So what we do when we exercise is we're influencing the process to be a little bit more towards the anabolic side than the catabolic side. That's what's really going on. You're not saying build muscle, because you're always being told that. You're telling your muscles build up and adapt a little bit more or faster than normal. And that's why fitness works. Because if it was telling your body to do something it wasn't doing, it would never work. Because you can't feed your body new instructions. All you're doing is saying, yes, I know you're rebuilding muscle. I know you're adapting the nervous system to accommodate your environment. Now I need you to adapt it in this direction so you can accommodate these push-ups, so you can accommodate this deadlift or whatever you are doing. And that's how truly fitness works. We are adapting and influencing the process that's always going on when we are training. And that's what we want to put our mind to. We don't want to depend on a particular type of formula of, if I do 100 push-ups a day, I'm going to build muscle. There's no guarantee of that at all. There's no promise of that. If I do 3 sets of 10, or if I lift to failure, then I'm going to get the result I want. Again, no promise at all. There's no guarantees in fitness. But when we recognize this process, then we can think to ourselves, what can I do now that can get the process moving in the direction I need it to give you the best chances for your success? Let's see what else is going on here. Oh, excuse me, I'm really pollinated out here. The allergies are going crazy. Esteban coming on, asking, hey, Matt, I've been recently thinking about doing full body workouts every day, push-ups, pull-ups, squats, so forth. What are your thoughts on this? Good ideas. Okay, so when it comes down to our workouts, we always want to recognize the process and how are questions like that potentially going to influence it? Because we could look at this a million different ways. Let me give you an example. Okay, full body workout, push, pull, and squat. Okay? Now, when we are giving our body some sort of a stimulus, and that's what training is. Say you're doing your push-ups, your pull-ups, and your squats. You're telling your body, I need you to be able to do this thing that I'm asking you to do. That's what working out really is. There's no such thing as a workout that builds muscle. There's no such thing as a workout that burns fat. There's no such thing as a workout that's going to make you look good in a bathing suit. All workouts do is they say, hey, body, I need you to do what I'm asking you to do. It's all functional demand. There's no such thing as an aesthetic demand. Now, of course, does exercise have aesthetic qualities to it? Absolutely, of course. My arms are bigger now than they were before, okay? But that growth is not nearly as reliable as we think it is, okay? I would, again, be foolish to say if you do this, you're going to build bigger arms. Maybe, who knows? You know, it's kind of up to chance. So when we are working out, we're essentially telling our body, I need you to be able to do this thing I'm telling you to do, okay? So that's what work training really does. I need you to be able to do this thing. And again, this is going on 24/7 every single day. You get up out of a chair. You're telling your body, I need you to be able to still get up out of a chair. You type on a keyboard. You open a door. You're telling your body, I still need you to get to open a door or get out of a chair, type on a keyboard or brush your teeth and all that sort of thing. We're constantly flooding our body with instructions telling our body how we want it to be able to perform. And training is no different. There's no difference at all between brushing your teeth and doing a set of pistol squats. It's just different demand. But the demand is still there. It's still saying, I need you to be able to do this. So when you're asking questions about, should I do full body training like this every day? The answer is yes, if you want to be able to tell your body, I need you to be able to do full body training every day. That's fundamentally what training is. It tells your body, I need you to be able to do this thing I'm asking you to do. And then whatever adaptations and stuff it goes through are to accommodate that functional demand. But I know we don't care about functional demand. We want to build muscle. We want to burn fat. We want to change our strength and everything like that. So we need to look beyond what are we asking our body to do and think about it this way. How is what you're asking your body to do a difference from what you used to be asking it in the first place? Okay? Your body changes because you ask it to do things differently. That's why training works. That's why you create a stimulus. It's not down to the sets and reps and training once a week versus every day and stuff. It really honestly does not matter very much. What you want to be asking yourself is, what am I asking my muscles to do that's different and progressive from what I was asking them to do last time? And only you can answer that question. It's like if you came to me and you were like, okay, if I do 100 push-ups a day, will that make me stronger? Hell if I know. How the hell am I supposed to know that? Because I have no reference point about what you were doing before. How is that different from what you were doing to begin with? Well, I was doing 1,000 push-ups with an elephant on my back before. Okay, then that's going to be less of a demand than what you had, so no. But if you're like, well, I was doing 20 push-ups a day, and now I'm going to bump it up to 100, do you think that could be somehow beneficial? It's like, well, yeah, based on what you were doing beforehand. So getting back to these rules that we're always told, do it this many times a week, do it that many times a week and stuff. It's all down to how is that going to influence your functional demand? How are you going to tell your body it needs to do something better and different than before? That's the answer that's going to tell you if it's going to be beneficial, not whether or not the science says what about full body training or daily training or anything like that. It's always down to what are you asking your body to do and how is it different than before? Now, don't get too comfortable with the idea that, well, if there's a difference, then it's got to be effective. Because we want to be able to make sure we're telling our body progressive information, not just the same thing over and over. So this happens a lot with volume. Let's say you were doing 3 sets of 10 push-ups 3 times a week. And now under this new program, it's 3 sets of 10 push-ups every day. Now you're doing more, sure, but is there going to be anything new coming in from that? Are you pushing your muscles to a higher degree of fatigue? Or are you just creating the same thing over and over? And only you can experience that. No, I don't know. It's going to have to be something you're going to figure out for yourself. So you can do anything with training. You literally, I don't care what you do. You can train every day. You can train once every month. You can do whatever the hell you want. Train however you want, full body split training, once in the morning, once at night, right side of the body once, right side left and stuff. You can change your workouts a million different ways. It honestly does not matter very much. Down to what are you asking your body to do? If I ask my biceps to work progressively harder over time, they're going to get stronger, regardless of what my program is, regardless of what exercises I'm doing, regardless of what type of training I'm doing. All the muscles know is, what do you need me to do here, man? And fundamentally, it boils down to how hard am I working and how long am I working for? That's it. Those are the only 2 variables we've got. So getting back to full body training every day, sure, give it a shot. Why not? Give it a shot, because the only way we're really going to understand, if we're really questioning things like, I don't know, it could go one way, because we could look at it like, well, if you train every day, are you going to be able to recover? Well, it depends on how hard you're training, depends on how long you're training, depends on sleep, depends on diet, depends on conditioning, depends on attitude, depends on technique, depends on range of motion, depends on speed, depends on a million other influences. So it could be good, it could be bad, depending on which way that the Rubik's Cube gets shuffled. But then again, it could be good. It's like, well, we're getting more practice. We're getting more grease the groove. We could be working the muscles to a higher state of fatigue at first. But then again, are we getting enough recovery? But then, there's a million ways we could look at this. And you'll find lots of people are saying, well, it will work because of this. It will work because of that, and back and forth. But the bottom line is no one knows. No one really knows. We got a lot of opinions. We certainly have our ideas of, oh, it's going to be great because of X. No, it's going to be terrible because of Y. Whenever there's a lot of debate in the world, I just chalk that up to, we don't know what we're talking about. Seriously, is coffee good? Is coffee bad? People back and forth, debating back and forth and stuff. When there's that much debate, what does that mean? We don't know. We don't have an answer for this. So the only way you can find out for yourself, give it a try. Your experience is worth more than 100 years of internet information out there, because you're going to give it a try, Esteban, for about a week, and probably figure out, yeah, I'm getting really tired. My joints are a little achy. Okay, not for me. Or you could be like, dude, I feel amazing. I feel great on my performance in my, co-ed naked Parcheesi tournament or whatever is going off the rails and stuff. Great. Your experience is going to tell you everything you need to know. So go out and get it. Long answer for that right there. But that's what we're talking about when it comes to these trainings, is making sure that we're always asking ourselves, what kind of stimulus am I creating in my body if I train this way? And because you're always creating a stimulus, me opening and closing my hand like this creates a stimulus in my hand to be able to do this, right? And then it's, well, how is that going to change anything? And that's why we ask, well, what was I doing beforehand? Now, true story, my father, years ago, I remember, he had something removed off of one of his knuckles. And so he had a splint on his finger, and his finger, of course, wasn't moving very much for like a month. And his finger was really stiff and tight. And the doctor was like, oh, this is going to take a while for you to get back on track and stuff. But because of his work, he was opening and closing his hand repeatedly throughout the day for work. And he was fully recovered within a couple of weeks. Why? Because he was just doing this. He was just opening and closing his hands. So even this is creating a stimulus saying, I need to be able to open and close my hand. And if I put my hand in a cast and kept it immobile for a good period of time, I would lose that stimulus, and therefore lose that ability. All right, let's see if we can fire off some more questions here real quick. I promise not to be so long-winded on the next ones. Alexandra, how's it going? Hey, Matt, I was wondering, what do you think of Bioneer? Oh, it was just on the podcast. I was listening to him. I feel like your content is compatible with his, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on him. Yeah, he was on, check out the Fitness Facts podcast where he was on that as well. He's been on the fringe of my attention for a while, so I don't know. But from what I heard, nothing, stands out as being, negative or anything like that. He's a big band guy, though, from what I understood. I've never been a big band fan myself, but so what? Who cares? It's for you to decide whether or not you like using bands or not. But no, I think he's got a much more practical approach for sure. Mariano, hey, Matt. Tips to positively influence recovery between workouts. Happy Easter to you, my friend. Yeah, so very good. So we have this process, right? We have a stimulus. So me hitting my hand like that, that just created a stimulus. I just sent information into my hand of various things, basically saying, I need to be able to do that. This is what we do in the martial arts. We punch things to create stimuli for our hands to get stronger for the sake of punching. So you have a stimulus, but you don't get the result from the stimulus. You get the result through the adaptation of the stimulus. So usually we think of recovery, but really it's not about recovery. No one ever got stronger by recovering. No one ever built muscle by recovering. Because think about it this way. The old adage is that you have stress and then you recover from the stress, and that's why you get stronger and stuff. That's the way it used to be perceived. However, you'll always have stress to some degree, and you'll always have that recovery, but you won't necessarily get anything out of that. Okay? There's no guarantee that you're going to have anything happen from that stress at all. Okay? I could give you, let's take the previous example, working out every single day, push, pull, and squat. Is that going to elicit some sort of stress and fatigue on the body? Absolutely. So you're gonna have stress. you're always going to have recovery. Okay? A lot of times people are like, you got to recover. How do we recover? Don't worry. Your body's going to recover automatically. Remember, this process is always on autopilot. And Mother Nature takes care of herself. You don't need to do anything. You're always having stress. I go outside on a hot day. There's stress. I moved out here to Denver. Thinner air. There's stress. You run up a flight of stairs carrying a couch. There's stress, right? So you're always going to have stress. You're always going to have recovery. And you're always going to recover. Don't worry. You don't need the supplements. You don't need anything special for recovery to have recovery happen. Can you imagine if that was the case? You know, you'd be at a party and like, oh man, my legs are so sore. Oh, I just can't recover. It's like, well, what was this? Oh, this was like 5 years ago. Oh, but I can't recover from that one squat workout because I didn't get the, right protein blend afterwards. So now I'm doomed like Marley from the Christmas Story to wander aimlessly for the rest of my life with unrecovered legs. No, you're going to recover no matter what. You got to have the crappiest diet, the worst lifestyle in the world. I guarantee you, you're always going to recover. It's the speed of the recovery that's going to change. You recover quicker or you recover slower. So getting that out of the way. Stimulus and adaptation is what we're after. You don't get results from recovery, you get results from adaptation. When you're recovering, you're allowing adaptation to happen. So this is why we want to get out of the, I got to stress myself out and then I've got to recover. No, you don't. You have to have a stimulus that tells your body, it educates your body, and then you adapt. And a lot of the adaptation does happen with things that team with recovery. Sleep is number one. I forget what book it was. A boss of mine once at a job I was working at, he was always reading. He's like, this is the book of the month kind of thing. And he was talking about a book about recovery. He's like, by far, the biggest influence to your recovery is sleep. Like by far, that's the biggest thing. You get that taken care of. Good sleep, quality sleep, take naps if you have to. Sleep, 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 sleep. And no, you can't make up for it if you miss out on it. Like there's nothing you can do to, supplements or caffeine or something like that. I could get by and stuff. No, crappy sleep, crappy adaptation or slower adaptation. Sleep, number one, by far. That's the bulk of it. In fact, I would go so far as to say, I will take good sleep over a crappy diet any day of the week because I can work with a crappy diet. Like my body, it's like the Mr. Fusion unit in the back of the time machine and Back to the Future. Just throw stuff in, I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. My body will take whatever I feed it, and it'll be like, I'll just break it down and use it as I like, which is how digestion works, right? I have a pretty resilient system. So I could have a crappy diet, but I can't recover from bad sleep. My sleep sucks. My adaptation is going to suck. Full stop. Okay. So sleep, number one, diet is second. And it's not so much good diet, like I'm going to be addressing this in the next week's podcast, why a diet, most of what we think is a good diet is actually a really bad diet, because most of our dietary practices are based on restriction. What is your diet? Oh, I don't eat these foods. I don't eat that kind of food. I don't eat this. That's not what you want to base your diet on at all. Like, of course, yes, if you are gluten intolerant, you're celiac, or you have peanut allergies, then don't eat those. But that's certainly not what you want to base your diet off of. If you are celiac and you can't have gluten, I'm not going to tell you your diet's healthy just because you don't eat gluten. Yeah, you don't want to have that, but that's not enough to base it off of. So that's why we talk about eat to satisfy. Feed yourself. Eat plenty of food. Eat really good nutrient-dense foods. You're feeding your body. And the more you have restrictions on your diet, the harder it is to do so. So feed yourself plenty of foods, good foods, foods you like to eat, foods that make you feel satisfied. That's the second thing. And that's like 10, 20% of that recovery. And then you have all the other sorts of things that everybody is trying to sell you as recovery methods, the foam rolling, the massage guns, the cryotherapy. We've got a recovery studio here in Denver with everything from the sleeves that go around your arms and your legs that have the blood pressure cuffs going on, put you in the meat locker where you're freezing to death kind of thing. It's cool, it's fun, but that's like that much of recovery. It's like the 1% left from sleep and diet. So eat plenty, eat good food, and get your beauty rest. You can tell I get plenty by how gorgeous I am, of course. Let's see, Marcelo, how's it going, my friend? Hey, Matt, great to see you live. Thank you very much, It's very good to see you as well. Let's see what else I can address here. Sorry, my hand is jostling the phone here a bit, Matt. The name here. Marcef, hey, Matt. I respect the fundamentals, enough food and probably progressive in my workouts, enough sleep and stress management. Yet I struggle to put on muscle, especially in the arms. Should I look into something? So the first thing I always look into whenever someone is struggling is, what about the stimulus? Okay, where's the instability in the stimulus? Are you working your muscles hard enough? That's a good one to look at, especially in the arms, okay? So are you feeling the muscle work really, really hard? And this is something that is, you can experience it, you have to experience it to know it. Like, are you doing curls to the point where you're like, oh my God, my arms are dead? Like, I was working with a young lady the other day and I was like, keep going. She's like, I can. I'm like, yes, you can. You've got plenty left in the tank. Keep going, keep going. And when she was done, she was like, my God, my arms are just like, I've never felt this way in my arms before. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, that's all I had. I'm like, trust me, that's not even close to all you had. You had plenty more in the tank. So a lot of times it really does come down to, we're just not working it hard enough. And this is why it's so important to recognize the fundamental process of what you're doing. Because a lot of times we're told you'll build muscle if you do this. And oftentimes whatever this isn't even close to enough. It's not even close to enough. Sometimes people are like, okay, I did like 3 sets of 10. I'm like, probably should get in like 8 sets. You know, get 8, go. Just keep pounding and hammering those muscles. Oh, I'm curling 20 pounders. Let's see if you can curl the 40s. You know, sometimes I'll give people what I like to call a bite it's too big you can chew kind of thing. When you're frustrated, I'm like, double whatever you're doing. You know, it's like, I do 5 sets, go 10. You know, I go to the gym twice a week, go 4. You know, I run 5 miles, try 10 kind of thing. Naturally be conscious of your safety about it too. You know, I don't want you doing things that are going to be risky or too dangerous. But a lot of times we get into this zone of like, well, they said that the best way to do this is 3 sets to failure. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm like, you may not even be fully warmed up after 3 sets of failure, depending on, again, a million different influences. So we're all figuring this out. Fitness is just a huge puzzle that we're all figuring out. No one has all the answers. No one knows entirely what they're doing. It's just a matter of, okay, this is the stimulus I'm creating. So what I would ask you is, what are you doing now? And I want your arms to work a crap ton harder this week. I'm talking way harder than before. Okay, so bite off a little more than you can chew. If you're doing cable pushdowns with 30 pounds, can you do it with 50 pounds? Right? If you're getting like 3 sets of 12, let's just crank that sucker up to 5 sets of like 15 or something. Really, really ramp it up. Because chances are very good, if you've got the sleep and the eating and everything like that, and you're feeling recovered, you've got to progress up beyond what you have to a large degree. And lastly, I would say, whenever a muscle is struggling, make sure you feel it working too. It's very, very, very important to recognize that you feel the muscle working. Don't just do your pull-ups and assume that things are working the way they should. Because exercises don't work muscles. Your brain does. And if your brain is not engaging your biceps or your lats correctly during pull-ups, there's no stimulus there. The stimulus comes from your brain, not your workout, not the exercise. That's just the vehicle you're applying it through. But the stimulus ultimately comes from the thoughts coming from your head. That's why they call it the neuromuscular system. So make sure those muscles are feeling that contraction as hard as possible. And if not, try warming up with some isometrics to get that mind-muscle connection really firing on up. Marcelo asks, hey, Matt, great seeing you live. Thank you. What ideas and tips do you have for applying animal movement training to your grind style training format? Good question. So the animal style training and crawling and stuff works really well for the stability phase. The stability phase is where we're shifting around, we're moving back and forth, we're getting our shoulders all in place, back and forth with our hips and stuff. Good for using that in the stability phase. And in fact, a lot of kind of shifting movements and stuff are in the stability phases for GSC. So just swap out movements that generally work the muscles you're going to be using. It doesn't need to be like this is directly for the push chain or the pull chain or the squat chain and stuff. you can use it as long as it's like, well, it's using my arms. Okay, great, very good. As long as you're getting some shifting and moving in the limbs you're going to be using, you're going to be good. Excuse me, drink some more of my wake up juice. Matthew T. Mahoney. Hey, Matt, what are thoughts on muscle confusion? Can I switch it up every week depending on how I feel to stick to a routine and have structure? Absolutely. So there's always this weird balance in fitness. It's like, on one hand, you've got to keep things consistent and regular in order to progress. Because remember, I said we create a progressive stimulus because things are different from what you used to be doing. But if you're so varied that you don't know what you used to really be doing, then how do you know what you're about to do is better or creating a stimulus for change, right? But on the other hand, we need change to some degree, if nothing else, to keep us mentally engaged and interested in our training. Things can get pretty stale very quickly. So the muscles don't care. Muscles are real simple. They know contract, they know elongation, they know time and tension. That's it. So they really don't care what exercises you're doing. It's kind of like, if you get protein, your body's going to use the protein, but it doesn't really care what the source is. But you're a human being, which means you do care what the source is, because you may prefer chicken over fish. You may say, I don't want to eat animal products, so I'm going to have plant-based protein, right? So you care what the source is, but your body doesn't. Same thing with exercise. As long as that muscle is working, the muscle is getting what it needs, but you might have a preference or an affinity or even a requirement to do certain kinds of exercise. So here's what I always recommend. Always keep in mind, fundamentally, what are the muscles doing? Okay, this is how I organize things in my scoreboard progression log, the free ebooks over at reddeltaproject.com. So I give people pushing movements, like this, pushing movements, horizontal push-ups, bench press, machines, bands, even pushing in different directions, downward press, all that sort of thing. So basically what I tell people is, if fundamentally you're moving roughly the same way, I don't care what you do. Right? I don't care what exercise you're doing. I don't care what you're trying to do as far as equipment goes. Like, I prefer bands. Okay, today I'm going to press kettlebells. Pushing is pushing. You're extending your elbow. That's triceps. Boom, there you go. Triceps are getting worked. So as long as you're consistently working the same thing fundamentally, then you can change things up any which way that you want. Do whatever you want, because it really doesn't matter, because your results don't come from what you do. They come what's going on the fundamental level. But the big mistake a lot of people make is they change what they do and what they do on the fundamental level, and then they think what they didn't work. Happens all the time in calisthenics, where someone will be like, okay, I get on the weight press machine, like the hammer strength machine, and I get real hard and heavy for 3 sets of 8. 3 sets of 8. And they're like, I'm going to give this calisthenics thing a shot. And then they're like, okay, I have a goal of 100 push-ups at once. So they try and they're working for 100 push-ups. And then they lose some strength, or maybe they're getting a little smaller or something. And they're like, oh, shoot, calisthenics isn't working for me. No, it's because fundamentally you just change things on a different process. It'd be no different than if you just took a lot of the weight off that hammer strength machine. And you're like, I'm going to see if I could do 100 presses with, a third of the weight that I used to lift. You changed the programming. You changed what you did on a fundamental level. So that's why I always want to think time and tension. Change things up however you want, but look at time and tension for what are you doing on a fundamental level. Okay, so sets and reps, basically. How many reps are you doing? 5 reps does not mean 5 reps. It means a level of resistance you can only push 5 times. That's what it's really referring to. So when we're looking at different types of exercises, do whatever the hell you want. I often give people lots of variations sometimes. It's like, today we do that, tomorrow we do that, but they're always working their muscles roughly to the same degree, same sets and reps and stuff, progressing those sorts of things. But then again, there's also the approach of periodization. And that's something that I recommend a little bit more structure to, like in grind style calisthenics, where you're going heavier, lower rep, and then lighter with more reps to burn it out, kind of thing. So then you are changing things on the fundamental level, but it's good to vary that sort of thing up. So change is very good, but don't expect your muscles to progress the way you want just because you're wandering around in circles. Let's see. Let's see what else I can address for you folks. Again, I do these for you, everybody. I love making these podcasts for you. Next week, I am going to actually be out of town, and I won't be able to make a live feed podcast, but I will do an audio for the next phase in the book that I'm covering. And I will post that on the Red Delta Project podcast. So you'll not fall behind. So make sure you check out the Red Delta Project podcast, where you get your podcast through your directories. And the new podcast episode will be there, just not the live feed version. Sanaleka asks, hey, do you know K-Boggs, and what's your opinion on, I have no idea. No idea. But once again, we have a programming question. So every day, 3 sets of 1 push, 1 pull, 1 leg exercise. Yeah, exactly. So getting back to the idea there of training every day. So once again, we're looking at the fundamental process. Now, usually what ends up happening when we're changing the frequency of our training, all we're doing is we're changing the cycle, the size of the cycle. So you have a stimulus and you have adaptation. Now, if you train really hard and you're like, I'm going to need a few days on this one to recover from the stress that comes with training, just because that's your collateral damage, then you have a big cycle. Like, let's say you hit your legs once a week. You train them really hard, and then by the time it comes back around, it's a whole week has gone by for the recovery. Or you can do it much more frequent, but just a little less stress. So it's like 1 or 2 sets, pretty intense, not too bad, but you only need 24 hours of recovery. So in that regard, you're just faster cycles, where it's going every day or every 2 days or so forth. You're not doing anything different. All you're doing is you're changing the size of the cycle. So this is why I tell people, like, I don't care if you train every day or once a week, it really doesn't matter. It's just changing the size of the cycle. Harder workout, more recovery. Shorter workout, less recovery. But the same exact process is still going on. You're not actually doing anything different as far as what you're telling your body. It's just a different cycle. And largely, a lot of these things just boil down to personal preference. A lot of the things that work best for us, when everybody's got something different. Different things work for different people. We hear this all the time. Why do a lot of things work differently? Simply because they like it. No other reason. Some people, they just like every day, and they like having a faster cycle. Other people, they're like, I just want to just crush the mother living hell out of my arms and not be able to pick up my arms and wash my hair for 3 days straight. That's why I have to shave my head, because that's what I like to do. Right. So it's like, okay, do that if you like it, do the other way if you like it. Ultimately, you're not really doing anything different, because fundamentally there's no real difference. So just do whatever you like. So again, it comes down to what kind of training do you like? Do you like free weights? Do you like calisthenics? Do you like bands? Base it purely on preference, largely on preference. It's like, just do whatever you want, because a lot of times what is most successful is going to be just whatever you have an affinity for. If you like chicken, but your friend prefers fish, you're probably going to get a healthier diet and better protein if you eat chicken and your friend eats fish, kind of thing. Or you could be like me and just give me anything. Except lobster. I don't care for lobster. I think sometimes it may be a genetic thing, because my father doesn't like lobster either. So I'm wondering if there's something that got passed down. But BoxFit Channel asks, Matt, do you think if you do a lot of HIIT will affect your gains? So we're talking about interference effect now. So interference effect is basically saying you're putting time and energy towards one thing, and it's compromising your ability to create a stimulus in another. Now, everything can potentially influence you negatively. And that's literally everything. A relationship can impact your gains. Why? You're about to head into the gym and your new significant other says, why don't you come on over? And you're like, okay, that's going to impact your gains. So anything that basically compromises your ability to train as hard and intensely as you were before is going to interfere. So that's why, again, we want to be aware of that fundamental cycle. Because you could do HIIT all day long, all you want and stuff, and you're like, no, it's not really influencing my ability to create a stimulus in my strength training. No effect. It's great. Wonderful. Go for it. But on the other hand, because of a million other influences in your life, stressful job, not really good sleep, diets off the rails, you're fighting, or you just broke up and you're emotionally a wreck and stuff like that, and your stress level is way high and it doesn't take much for you to overfill that stress bucket, then one HIIT session could be enough to compromise a whole week of gains depending on how everything else is going. That's why we want to be aware of these things, because it's impossible for me to say, yes, it will, or no, it won't. But it's more up to you of, if I do a little of this, will it hurt? It might even help. Because if you're like, okay, my endurance is getting better, my mental fortitude, I talked earlier about just being able to push yourself harder. If this used to happen to me as a bike racer, where in the summer I would like go out and I'd do my mountain bike races, which is of course going to level 100 and beyond, where it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever pushed myself that hard before. And the next day I would be in the gym and I'm like, I'm so tired, I'm so spent, but I'd still have a good workout just because my point of reference of how hard I could push my body was so much higher that I still pushed myself hard because I just knew I could. I'd get to my normal level of pull-ups and be like, oh no, you worked twice as hard as this yesterday, so you keep going, kind of thing. So there's again, it's like, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be all over the place. Does it really matter? Not really. Go out and find out for yourself through your experience on what you prefer. Leonardo, good to see you, my friend. Hey, Matt, often chest and back are pinched, maybe an excessive volume from which I cannot recover well. I'm afraid that by doing less, I lose muscle. What can I do? What do you mean by pinched? I'm not quite sure. It might have been a typo there. But no, again, the process. So you can have your workout change 100 different ways and have it not matter hardly at all. All right. I'm working out less. I'm working out more. I'm working out, with different exercises. You can change things a million different ways. And it's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It's really not going to affect the outcome here. All right. So look at the fundamental. Are you able to tell your muscles how they're working on the fundamental level? Sometimes maybe the opposite. You're getting a little more recovery. You're getting a little bit more of that motivation amped up. So when you do hit your workout, I'm like, I'm going to tear the walls off with this workout. And you hit it even harder and better than before. That could be a plus. Or sometimes, like for me, if I go several days without working out, I find my edge just starts to get a little dull. And I'm like, I really just kind of don't feel like working out right now, just because I've not really been in that mode for a while. So there's a million ways. It could be good, it could be bad. So if something is holding you back a little bit, like injury or illness or something like that, don't worry about it. Especially in the short term. It's like, oh, this week has been off the rails. I just can't make anything happen this week. Don't worry. A week's not long enough to really make anything happen very much. Look at the stuff that's more long term. When I had long COVID last year, it was like 5 straight months where my workout sucked. Did that compromise things? Absolutely. I didn't have a decent workout for nearly half the year, but I did what I could. I got through what I could. Sometimes literally just getting down and doing 10 push-ups was all I could manage for a while. But you get what you can with what you have, and then you come roaring back, because you can always come back as well. Myself, once again, asking, hey, Matt, any recommendations for Ramadan? We do try fasting from down to dusk, sunrise to sunset, mostly 14 hours a day for a month. Yeah, very good. I have a good friend of mine who's doing that as well, and I've been advising her. So basically, do what you can with what you have. So when you are not in that fasting period, eat well, have a really good dinner, really good morning. I know some people who celebrate Ramadan, they'll wake up a little early before sunrise in order to have a really good breakfast. Make sure that the foods you are getting are good quality, because you want them to count. You're not going to have a big feeding window with this. So you want to make sure you're getting good amount of protein, good amount of plant-based foods, vitamins, minerals, supplement if you like, kind of thing, just to kind of fill in the gaps. And I don't see is it anything that can compromise your workout, so to speak. You just work out at night or early in the morning before the sun comes up, or after sunrise. And how long is Ramadan? Anyway, I knew this and it's escaping me right now. But again, it may be very much a case of the duration of it isn't going to be long enough to really affect anything too much. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But let me know in the comments, because I'm blanking on that. I don't think it's too terribly long, though. All right. Leroy the man. Good to see you again, my friend. Hey, Matt. I know this sort of a lot of topic in the fitness realm recently, but is the back squat weighted calisthenic? Theoretically, some strength coaches agree, some just don't. What's your opinion? My opinion doesn't matter. Who cares? I actually made a video and I put this as an example about how a lot of things in our fitness culture are trying to put things into little dogmatic boxes. And this is a video I'll be making in the future about how basically taking a dogmatic approach can basically ruin everything in fitness as we know it. In fact, it's quite possibly one of the greatest threats to mankind as we know it. But when we try to classify things, like, is it a weighted calisthenic? Is it a calisthenic? Is it a body weight? Is it functional? Is it, we try to put these labels into it. Usually when people ask me these questions, though, what they're really asking about is, can I allow myself to do the exercise? Okay, so when we have a dogmatic box, what usually happens is someone is saying, okay, this is your box, so everything in it you have to do, right? You have to do the things in this box, whether you like it or not. And everything outside of this box, you can't do. Don't allow yourself to do it whatsoever. So in some cases, the back squat would be inside a box, right? It'd be in the powerlifting box. It'd be in a bodybuilding box. It'd be in a CrossFit box, the literal metaphorical box, not the literal gym, right? So people in that, it's like, okay, it's in my little box. I have to do this, which sucks if it's a bad exercise for that person, because there are a lot of reasons why that may not be a good exercise for them. But no, you're a part of, bodybuilding kind of thing. You have to be able to back squat. And like, oh man, my back surgery that I did, it's not happy with this sort of thing. I don't like doing it. Whatever the case is, there's plenty of reasons not to do it. The fact that it fits in a dogmatic box isn't one of them. But at the same time, someone in like the bodyweight world could be like, no, that's lifting weights. We don't lift weights. We don't do that. It's a weightlifting exercise. It's not a body weight. So keep it outside the box. You're totally boned either way because you're not basing it off of the real thing you should be basing off of. Just, do you want to do back squats? Is it a good exercise for you? Is it in alignment with your goals? Is it in alignment with your preferences? Is it in alignment with your just resources? Like, do you have a squat rack and a barbell and stuff? Do you have access to that sort of thing? These are the things you should be asking, not what box does it fit into, right? So don't worry, is it weighted calisthenics or is it calisthenics or is it not weighted? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not important to consider it one way or the other. You're not like breaking some sort of like Illuminati code if you can say like, I'm a bodyweight guy, but I love back squats. Great, whatever, right? I'm not a fan of being in any sort of dogmatic box. I mean, hell, I'm a bodyweight guy, but I do isometrics. You could be like, that's not calisthenics, that's not bodyweight training. La-di-da, who cares? It doesn't matter. I love it. I do it. Do you want to do it? That's the only question you should be asking yourself. If you want to do it, you should do it. If you don't want to do it for whatever reason, don't do it. You can get your legs strong a million other different ways. Easy one. Oh, it's so good to see you again. Everybody's coming back on. Hey, Matt. During Ramadan, I do my exercise routine once again, split it into 2 short sessions during the day. I do abs workout less than 10 minutes while one more session I will do at night, upper body and legs. Try doing the legs with the abs. That's one of the things that I've often found is if I combine the abs and the legs, it's like peas and carrots, man. It's chocolate and peanut butter. It's just such a nice combination. Tuna on sushi rice. It's a good combination. It's something that I like to do myself, and I find others do the same thing. But you put the legs with the upper body, it's kind of like you've got this unbalanced, like one is metabolically more taxing than the other. Try doing the legs in the morning. See if that helps to wake things up a little bit. Or upper body in the morning, or so forth. Switch that around. Might be something that can help you out. Just my 2 cents. Alex N., good to see you. Hey, Matt, how to train the nervous system? Anything. Should it be by doing hard exercises, low rep, easy exercises? What's the difference between strong nervous system versus strong muscle? There really isn't much of any difference there, to be honest with you, because they are kind of one and the same. Think about it, the analogy I always use of the car. Your nervous system is the engine and the transmission. Your muscles are the wheels. That's what spins, right? So think of it like your muscles are the point of the spear, but you grabbing the pole and thrusting, that's your nervous system. It's what's driving the muscle. So you're always training both. Okay. Now, there is sometimes, just for the sake of being able to conceptualize training differences, lots of times people will talk about training the nervous system when it comes to really heavy resistance, or AKA isometric training, because it's really, really heavy. That can stimulate a good amount of neural activation. Motor units are firing together for coordination, and therefore strength. A lot of times you'll hear people say strength is neurological, and building muscle, that's about working the work capacity of muscle. That's more high rep stuff, burning out the muscle, hitting the muscle tissue, and so on. But they're really kind of inseparable between those two things. So it's kind of a little strength versus endurance kind of difference there. So I usually, that's why I'm always saying train for some things are strength-based, some things are endurance-based, like in grand style calisthenics. You kind of get both things covered, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. The other thing you can look at from the standpoint of training your quote nervous system is coordination. The animal crawls that we mentioned earlier, something that requires some coordination of how your body works together as a unit. If you're used to doing like curls all day long for your biceps, and then you get into calisthenics and you start doing pull-ups, and whoa, my biceps need to work with my shoulder and with my back and everything together. That's another way you're effectively like working your nervous system, because you're getting things to fire in particular ways for the sake of coordination. But once again, it boils down to, as I was saying earlier, what do you need to do? What do you want your body to be able to do? And nervous system, muscles, even the skin on your hands adapts accordingly to the functional demand. You grab onto that pull-up bar, you start to get a little bit of calluses maybe. Functional demand always elicits 100% effectiveness every single time, exactly according to the specificity of that demand. Marcelo is asking, hey Matt, off topic, are you celebrating Easter holiday? For me, good time to train, eat, and sleep. I always grew up kind of, as a kid celebrating Easter and stuff. But as an adult, for some reason, it always tends to be this holiday that sneaks up on me. Like I just wake up one day and people are like, Happy Easter. It's like, oh, really? True story. When I was in Japan studying abroad, we got up and we're like, oh, we're all going to go to church. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to church. We're on this tropical island in the West Pacific, Northwest Pacific. And every day we were just doing something cultural on the island. I'm like, okay, I guess that's our thing we're doing today. And I was in church there for like half an hour. And I was like, so is there any like special reason we're doing this? And they're like, yeah, it's Easter, dumbass. I'm like, it is? I'm like, really? So that's Easter for me. It always kind of sneaks up on me. But yeah, I am going out. I've got a brunch tomorrow with some good friends. We're all going to get together and have kind of like a potlucky brunch for it. So for this year, it's not sneaking up on me. I actually know that it's something that is going to be happening. Dave, good to see you. Platz would train his legs once every 3 weeks during the week during his peak. Yeah, well, if you ever saw Tom Platz workout, seriously, YouTube Tom Platz squat routine or Tom Platz leg workouts. Oh man, it was insane to watch him do stuff like that. I'm trying to remember if it was Tom Platz or if it was, oh God, what was his name? I'm blanking on it. He was all in the Tough Stuff brochures at the shop oh gosh, this is going to drive me crazy. But there's a video somewhere of him training a guy on the hamstring leg curl bench. And I kid you not, this guy was brought to tears. He had so much intensity. I want to find that video because I want to use it as a reference. People are like, that was as hard as I could have gone. And be like, did you go this hard? Where the guy's like doing forced negatives and stuff like Lee Priest, that was his name. Lee Priest, I think, was giving this guy a leg workout. And I really think the guy was crying at the end of it. Like, honest to God, sobbing on the bench because his legs got blasted so hard. So it's always good to have references like that of like, I really worked hard. I'm like, did you really? Like, I know you worked hard, but did you work really hard? And that's why I always tell people that things like lifting to failure and going to your limits and as hard as you can, a lot of that's much more subjective than we think it is because it's just point of reference. Right? We're always thinking our limits are whatever our previous limits were. When I was racing and riding bicycles as a kid, I was like, oh man, that was as hard as I could have gone. And then I got into collegiate racing and I realized what I thought was my limit wasn't even like 10% of what I could do. Because it's like, wow. And to this day, I always say I've only reached my true limit twice in my entire life. And that was no doubt in my mind. Like that was honestly as hard as I could have gone. And that was really like I pushed myself to the point where I was using my bicycle as a walker to get back. Just absolutely brutal. My bike at the time was like 15 pounds. And I remember looking at that bike going, I honestly don't think I have the strength to lift this thing up and put it in my car. 15 pounds, right? All right, Monse, a couple last ones real quick here. Everybody, hey, Matt, any recommendation? Oh, sorry. I just really did a weird scroll thing, so I'm sorry. I'm coming back. Arg. This is why I miss my computer already. I miss having a bigger screen. Oh, here's one good from Jeff. Hey, Matt, work a really physical job and am on my feet all day. Would one day of heavy lifting be enough for strength and size? It very well may be, yeah. So this is what I'm talking about, influences, folks. You know, having a very heavy job. I used to work a lot of labor-intensive jobs back in the day. That can be an influence. So your cycle may need to be bigger because you've already got a lot of other things you need to recover from. So I'd start off one day a week, right? Especially at first, because whenever you're doing new exercises or you're just getting into a workout, you're just getting blasted with your body and stuff. So one day a week for a month, 6 weeks or so, and then try twice and see what happens. We're always looking not for a number like it's twice a week or 3 times a week better or something. We're just looking for how do we feel? Do you feel like when you get to your next workout that you can smash it, bash it, and trash it? Or are you like, oh man, I'm just not feeling it today every like Friday or so? Then yeah, back off a little bit. The point is we want to train to gain. We want to win these workouts. You want to get into your workout and say, I did it this way last time. This time I'm going to do it even better. The goal is not hard work. The goal isn't to push to failure. The goal isn't to work harder or anything. The goal is to say, I did it this way before. I'm doing it better now, some way, because that's how you create the stimulus for adaptation in the direction we want. Otherwise, you're just kind of running around and not doing anything too productive. Of course, you're always creating a stimulus, as I've talked about, but your progressive stimulus is what produces progressive results. Tony, hey Matt, what's your thoughts on just a 2 full body workout a week? Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. Again, you can change your workouts however you like, friends. Fit at your schedule. A lot of times when I'm working with clients and we talk about building workout routines, a lot of it just boils down to, well, what's your schedule like? What kind of time do you have? When can you get to the gym? When can you feel up for a workout? You know, kind of thing. Well, Wednesday's leg day. No. I do a weekly cross-country race every Tuesday night. I'm not going to be up for that. Okay, not Wednesday. Friday then. How's that sound? Friday sounds good. Okay, that's a lot of what goes into a workout routine. It's not about what's the science say about how many times a week and how many sets and reps. It's just, what can you do? What do you have? What fits your schedule? A lot of what goes into a workout routine is just getting things to fit people's schedules and preferences. Esteban coming on once again. Hey, Matt, what was the fitness culture like in Japan? What did you learn from Japan? Great hearing your thoughts. This is why I refer to it as a fitness culture, folks, is because I thought fitness was fitness and diet was diet. Like, yeah, everybody eats this way. Everybody trains this way kind of thing. But when I went to Japan, you know, everybody talks about culture shock when you travel to another culture or a country and stuff. And the culture shock that hit me was how crazy different it was towards exercise. For example, when, again, my taiko drumming, which is Japanese in origin, in Burlington, Vermont, we would literally spend half the class doing push-ups and leg raises and shoulder circles and calisthenics and stuff. Literally half the class was doing that. We were always told these stories of, oh, in Japan, they run a marathon before every class and all this sort of thing. So when I got to Japan, I joined a taiko group, which was really hardcore. I'll tell you that story in another time. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And I got down on the floor, I started doing push-ups, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I'm doing my push-ups, you know, got to warm up. And they're like, get your ass off the floor. You're wasting time. Go grab a drum. And it was like, whoa, okay, that was not what I was expecting. They're like, you want to do push-ups? You do that on your own time. We're here to drum. So a lot of the fitness aspect of things was not very common there. Another thing, because at the time I was at the peak of my bike racing career. So I got a mountain bike when I was there and used that for travel and everything. But for the life of me, I couldn't find a helmet. Now, here in the States, especially as a bike racer, it's like you wear a helmet if you're just riding over to the store. You always wear a helmet. Plus, a good friend of my family years before had been killed in a bike accident because he wasn't wearing a helmet. So I was like, got to have a helmet. But I go over there, and it's like, nobody has a helmet. No. And I even tried finding one. I was like, where do I find a bike helmet? Nowhere. I had to go to like this massive bicycle, like Costco-sized warehouse, and they had a helmet I could buy. And it's like, well, that's it. Take it or leave it kind of thing. So that was another culture shock that I had. But yeah, the whole idea of like exercise for the sake of fitness just wasn't there. Instead, it was much more of an integrated into society thing. You ride your bike to the train station, you go to work, that's your exercise. You walk everywhere. You have physical pursuits and activities like taiko drumming, karate, kendo, judo, all these sorts of things. Exercise was more integrated into fitness. They didn't have nearly as much of a, okay, everybody, time out, got to go do my workout kind of thing. The other thing too was I tried finding a gym when I was there, and I found a gym. I was in Kyoto. That's like Boston for Japan. Big city, lots of people. A gym, one gym. And it was probably about the size of my apartment. And when I asked her, I was like, okay, so how much is a membership? They're like $600 a month. I was like, no, not on my student budget, no way. But those were some of the culture shocks there. But that's why I always refer to it as fitness culture, because it's very easy to assume, especially when you just grow up in it, that, yeah, this is how you eat, this is how you train, this is how exercise and fitness is done. But when you go to other cultures and you see how they approach health and fitness, you realize, no, the whole idea of, oh, if I want to eat healthy, I need to take junk food out of my diet, that's cultural. That's not universal at all. Or I want to get in shape, I need to push my body as hard as possible and say life, time out, I got to go work out, come back, life, time back in. Again, cultural. It's largely cultural. And when we understand that, we recognize that fundamentally fitness has got a lot more freedom and flexibility in how we approach it than what we usually think is the norm. Awesome question. Thank you so much, Esteban. Very, very good. I should do videos on that because that was fun to talk about. Dave is saying, I brought up Tom Platz as an example of intensity versus frequency. Absolutely, my friend. Very good example. Fantastic. Good job. That is certainly an example of that. But again, it's can you push to that level? Because I would argue that most people do not have the ability to push to that level. I don't think I could, to be perfectly honest. Right? So if you took on Tom Platz's workout and they're like, work legs once every 10 days or 3 weeks or so, okay, that's what Tom Platz did. Yeah, but can you push to that level? So if you're like, I did it every 10 days or so and my legs got smaller and weaker, yeah, because you can't push that hard. So your cycle is faster. So you need to do it like twice a week or something along those lines. It's not what's better for one person or the other. It's all about managing that process, that cycle. Couple last ones here. Giovanni asking, Matt, what do you think of 3 sets legless rope climbs as strength work for pull day, and then follow up with 1 set of chin-ins and 1 neutral grip and so on. Yeah, so this is again an example of like fundamentally what are you doing? Vertical pulling type movements. You've got these different exercises here, but fundamentally you're not really doing anything different. So yeah, you can combine them, but one of the things I'm always kind of a little bit on guard against is redundancy. Because that's what I used to do. I used to have these workouts that were long and convoluted. And looking back on it, it's like, yeah, I was basically doing the same thing fundamentally 5 different times. So it was a huge waste of time because I wasn't telling my body any new information. So you got the rope climbs and you got your chins, right? Fundamentally, my arms are not doing anything really that different. Okay. So then we can look at intensity versus volume. So I like what you got here. We got the rope climbs. They're basically kind of almost like alternating 1-arm pull-ups. Very intense, legless, very awesome. And then you've got like a finisher set. So that's grind style approach. Work hard and then blast them out. But then you also have, other day. Okay, other day you do weighted pull-ups. I was like, weighted pull-ups in the same day. I misread it. Sorry, that was my bad. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Awesome, great, wonderful. Do it that way. Because what you're doing is fundamentally, you're not really changing anything. You're getting the same general stimulus in your pull chain, with those techniques. So you're changing it up to different exercises. You're changing the flavor and everything. So that keeps it fun and fresh and stuff. But fundamentally, you're staying on track. I think it's very smart for doing it that way. Absolutely. I thought you were doing that all at once, in which case I was going to say it was redundant, but it's not. You're doing it smart. Leonardo, hey, Matt, just wanted to maintain my muscle and train to feel good and have fun. Good reasons to train, my friend. What can I do? Do whatever you want, my friend. Do whatever you want. Challenge your strength. You'll build strength and create that stimulus, and just do whatever you're currently doing now. You just, a lot of times people are like, what do I do to maintain? I'm like, stay with what you got. Keep doing what you're doing here. And that, because again, you're still creating the same stimulus. If that stimulus is maintained, the results are maintained, barring any sort of, of course, long-term changes in age and hormones and other things like that. Of course, nobody escapes father time, but yeah, just do what you like. The more general your goals are, like, I just want to be strong and I want to feel good and I want to look good. It's like, great, general goals, whatever. Literally, you can do most anything you want. The more specific your goals are, the more specific the methods need to be. But that gets easier too, because it's like, well, I need to be able to do, let's say I need to be able to do 20 pull-ups. Okay, great. Then we need to do pull-ups. We need to be able to do 20 of them. So we need to have our training to challenge your ability to do exactly that. But otherwise, I'd be like, yeah, just do whatever the heck you want for pull chain and you're ready to rock and roll. Fantastic. All right, let's see if there's any more that I can address. Finishing off my juice. Hey, Matt, are there any side delt isolation exercise of calisthenics? Not really. You don't need them. Don't worry about them. You're not going to miss anything. Tony, Matt, do you have any videos on jackknife pull-ups on the grind straps? What's your thoughts on them? Oh, I love them. I love that exercise. Check out seated pull-ups, I might have called them. The jackknife pull-ups, seated pull-ups, progressive pull-ups. I know I've got something out there. In fact, I think what I did was a isodynamic workout using that exercise. So if you look for 1 minute pull-up workout, I think that might pull it up as well. But yeah, love that exercise. Highly underrated. I think far more people should do it. All right, everybody. It is over an hour left. Once again, I will be making an audio for the audio podcast for next week because I won't be able to do this live feed, unfortunately. But that will be addressing a little bit more into the fundamental process of diet and nutrition. And also, don't forget to check out pullupdip.com. using the promo code Happy Easter for 10% off at checkout. Link is down below. Yes, it is an affiliate link, so you're helping to support the show. If you use that, highly appreciated. Thank you very much. And I will talk to you folks next week. Till then, be fit and live free.